Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Super excited to have you here. It is going to be an amazing day. Guys, the stuff that I have prepared for you is absolutely going to blow your mind. Very rarely do I push and promote exactly what we're going to talk about on the channel this morning and push it to new sources. We've done that to a lot of new sources today. I'm Matt, Lumberjack Landlord. I've got 124 units. I've got 43 buildings. And so most of the time, my perspective is that of an investor. I think one of the things that I've uncovered in many of these crash videos that I've been watching, I want to understand the other side. I want to understand their perspective. And I think that they are doing you a huge disservice. I think that you need to better understand as a home buyer what the opportunity is that you are actually leaving on the table. I think it will absolutely blow your minds the number of mistakes that people are making with these crash videos. They generally are sharing one number with you, which is the transactions are way down. Hey, that's fine. We called that 6 months ago. Hey, rates are way up. Yep, called that 6 months ago, 7 months ago as well. All of this stuff has been things that One Rental at a Time, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, Millennial Mike, Anna Kelly, REI Mom, myself, the Lumberjack Landlord, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. These are all things that we've been talking about for months and months and months. All these crash videos are leaving out very, very important elements to what people need to be considering when they're looking at purchasing their home. They need to be comparing apples to apples. They need to be looking and understanding exactly what that cost of that opportunity is. And that's what businessmen, myself, do really well, is understanding the complete cost of a decision. This is something that these crash videos are not giving you. And I think it's been a huge disservice. Sadly, on any given video, they have 10 to 20 to 30 times the amount of viewership that we have talking about how you get around these things and how you actually figure out, is this something worth doing? So this is likely one of my most important videos that I've ever made. I would encourage you guys to stick with me, go through it. If you have a question and you want to make sure that it gets answered, we treat all super chats equally. Super chat is available. If you do have a question, I go right to the super chat. I'm going to get through the monologue real quickly here, talk to you guys about the numbers as I see them, because I think that you need to be very, very concerned that only a part of the story is being told. The smart money is at work. Wall Street money is at work. Investor money is at work. Funds money is at work. When a fund is deploying capital, that is cash. It is not financing. You are not playing on a level playing field. You need to understand that. So I'm going to take you through the numbers specifically on a $400,000 home, which here is about the right price in my market for a 3-bed, 1.5 bath home. I'm going to take you through the numbers as I see it. Stop looking at crash, 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 crash. Are transactions way down? Yes. Will prices eventually correct? I believe so. But how much of that pricing power is going to get wiped away by higher rates? This is exactly what's happened over the last year. To buy exactly the same house at exactly the same price, your payment is 80% higher than what it was even at the beginning of the year. If you waited, you have missed it. You have missed an amazing buying opportunity. But I want you to consider the other elements that these crisis crash videos are not talking about. I think it's an education crisis that people don't understand all of the data inputs that they need to understand in order to properly understand the decisions that they are making. So without further ado, I've given you the criteria. The criteria is this: $400,000 home, 3-bed, 1.5 bath. In my market, again, about a $400,000 purchase. Right now, I do have multiple units like that I am renting. I actually have half of duplexes that are renting. And I'm going to share the numbers with you now because I think they're absolutely going to blow you away. Real quickly, rent. This is horrible handwriting, but you guys will see. Rent, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, $3,200 a month is what I'm renting that for. Nothing included. That's everything on the tenant. Here, what's your mortgage payment on that same thing with 5% down? $3,268. It's a $68 difference. Right now, 5.5% rates, owner occ, living in the property. This applies to multifamily as well, but multi gets even crazier because we're not counting any of the income. We're not counting a dime of the income when it comes to the rental property. So I'm just talking pure home buyer buying that house. This in particular, $400,000, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, rent $3,200, and nothing is included except for snow plowing and lawn mowing. That's a pretty small blip. The mortgage, $3,268.01. What we're talking about is the fact that we're differing on $68 and they're saying crash, 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 crash. Here's where the numbers that no one is sharing start to get extremely, extremely interesting. Would anyone venture to guess exactly what your mortgage, or excuse me, what your rent tax deduction is? When you pay rent, what is your tax deduction? No one's talking about this, and I don't know why. I think it's an absolute crime. Your tax deduction year one on your rent, $0. $0. Zero. You get no write-off, no nothing at all, no tax benefit. $0. Big fat goose egg. What is your tax deduction on the interest on your mortgage, which in year one is almost all interest? I went very conservative with this number, but your total monthly payments, principal and interest, in the very first year on a $400,000 mortgage at 5.5% are going to be right around $25,000. Right around there is going to be your principal, interest, your principal and interest payment. Over the first year in a mortgage, $21,000, an estimated $21,000 of that is tax deductible. Can you not use a $21,000 tax deduction? Do you think that that doesn't bring you from one level of taxes to another? Do you think that doesn't take you down at least one bracket, if not maybe two? $21,000 tax deduction. Even if you're at the 20% rate, you're still saving another $4,200. $4,200. That's $350 a month. So now the rental that you're paying for at $3,200, you're losing $350. That's like paying $3,550 for it. We haven't even gotten to PMI. PMI has some rules to it, but largely it is also deductible. So you could be paying another 200 and some odd dollars. I actually did the math and put everything together. You could be looking at easily another $277 of PMI times 12. You're looking at right around $3,400. Another $277 a month on top of the $3,550 that you're already adjusted payment paying. You add another $277 on top of that, you're now paying $3,825 just for round numbers. $3,825 is now what your $3,200 tax, but was now what your $3,200 rent is costing you. It's $3,825. So now you're at $3,825. It gets worse from here. That's the sad thing. $3,825, you're now paying that number. Worse than all of those numbers combined is you're at $3,825. Now add in that in many cases, taxes are deductible. The taxes that you're paying on your house are deductible. In this particular case, in this particular scenario, the property tax bill was, oh my goodness, it was another $700 a month. $700 a month in my state, in my region, $700 more a month. $4,525. is now what you are paying actually for your $3,200 rental. It's just math, guys. It's just math. Why aren't any of the crisis crash videos talking about the tax benefits of property ownership? Why are they not talking about the fact that when you're renting, you're lighting money on fire? I'm a landlord. I tell my tenants this all the time. Hey, keep saving, get that first house. We have a ton of tenants. When they leave us, they're buying their first home. We have some entry-level apartments. Then we have that, what we call that move-up apartment. And then we have the people that want to go to the next level, which is, I want to stay in a really nice apartment. I don't want to own a house. To the, hey, we're going from this level apartment. We're not going to move up into that super apartment. We're going to keep on saving in this middle tier, this B apartment, so we can then buy a home. Guys, I am dropping absolute fire here today. This is a major, major differentiator. It is literally costing people, not that $3,200 number. It is costing them upwards of $4,500 a month when you factor into account these other deductions, these other tax deductions. And granted, we went for like $3,500, $3,600 based on the real money from your tax return. So PMI is deductible, so you get 20% of that back, so that's $50. But then on top of that, you get your taxes back, but 20% of that's $140. So when it's all said and done, at a minimum, real dollars, you're probably paying closer to $3,700 or $3,800 a month for that apartment, and you own nothing. There is no principal pay down. There is no guarantee that rent is going to stay the same. I'm not saying that rents are going to go up 10, 20%, excuse me, at infinitum. They obviously aren't. It will slow down. It will plateau, but over a 10-year period or a 7-year period, they're going to be up even further. They're going to be up. And is your mortgage going to be up as much as that? No way. So when we talk about the real numbers, that 3268, but you actually own that property. Yeah. 3268 is you owning that $400,000 property with 5% down versus rent. Rent legitimately, you are easily looking at $3,700, $3,800 a month, actual real cost, when you figure in the deductions that now you're not getting and what is actually money out of your pocket. So I hope that was helpful to you all. I hope we had a lot of new listeners today watching this stuff, because again, this is the stuff that people are not paying attention to. You're not paying attention to all the numbers. You're only being served up some of the numbers. Work the calculation yourself. Talk to your CPA. This isn't financial advice. This is math. Talk to your CPA. Talk to your enrolled agent, your EA. Look at the numbers, please. Look at the numbers. I think you'd be surprised. Your rental that you think you're under market on, let's just say you're living in Utopia and it's $3,268 for the mortgage, but your rent's $28. You're still losing and you own nothing. If you know that you're going to be in an area for 5, 7, or 10 years and it's 99%, guess what? You're probably better off buying, even with higher rates and even with higher prices, not trying to jump the market and time everything perfectly. There is smarter money out there than homeowners that are buying things when the numbers make sense. And there is a level of desperation out there. You need to hunt for that right deal. The last thing that I'll leave you with is this: when we look at actually comparing the numbers, here's the last thing I'll leave you with. If you look at your rent, there is no point in history at all over a 7 to 10 year period where it wasn't up a total of double digits. Likely your house is being bought with 30-year fixed rate debt. That is likely not going to be an issue. So I implore you, please look at the numbers, make sure that you're doing the work. Don't just take what the crash videos are saying. Not that their statistics or their numbers that they're sharing are wrong. They're right. They're reading them to you. But they're not factoring in all the benefits of homeownership. They're not factoring in the understanding of math when it comes to not evaluating based on 2 data points. you need, and we talk about this in my business, we talk about data sets. There's a reason that they call it a data set. It's a set of numbers, not two. It's a set. It's a bunch of numbers all telling the story. And if you're only ever using 2 or 3 numbers or 1 or 2 charts, it's going to throw things off. So I hope that that's helpful to you. I know that we have a ton of questions going. As I like to say, we will always take care of the super chats first. So hopefully this is helpful to those first-time home buyers or even people that are on the sidelines considering home buying. You need to be considering these other categories if you want to actually know the cost of not moving forward on a home purchase. Guys, thanks so much for taking time with me. I really appreciate it. Absolutely hit the like and subscribe button. And we will make sure to hit you up on the next Lumberjack Landlord. I'm not going to stop it there, though. We're actually going to go and we're going to go into a bunch of these questions, check out the super chats. And we've also got Angel R. Thanks for the super sticker, Angel R. Everybody that does a super chat today in the next 90 minutes, we're only going to 1 o'clock today. I have a hard stop. We will put your name in a drawing for Lumberjack Landlord merch. You just tell me what size you want. And if you want me to autograph it for you, because it's kitschy and it's fun, not because I think I'm important. I just think it's funny. But if you want me to autograph for it, I'll autograph it for you. I can do it across here, or I can also do it on the back panel. That way you can tuck it in and no one sees it was actually signed. But there will only be a few of those limited going out anyway. But if you guys do any super chat for anything, $1.99 and up, you get entered in, and then we roll the dice at the end of the show. And then we pick one of who that winner is, and we make sure that that somebody gets that shirt sent out to them. So I see that we've got a special guest joining us. I'm going to bring him in right now. Hopefully he's awake and has pants on.
Oh, it worked. Okay. Nice.
Absolute perfection. How you doing, my man?
I have such wonders to show you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I appreciate you giving me a little bit of time to do my rant here, but it's just math. It's just math. And I can't believe none of these crisis channels, none of these crash videos are talking about the tax cost of not owning and buying a home. They're only talking about crash, crash, crash.
It's one of those things that is a little frustrating.
Yes.
I don't want to be known as the videos that, like the channels who are arguing the crash videos. So
Right.
I'm glad that about, 1 in 10, 1 in 20 videos are like this, where we just go, look, this is how much you're losing. This is what it's costing you to watch these videos. Mike said, Zuber says this often. Every time a crash video comes out, he loses 2% of his competition.
Yep. Sure.
Well, we don't want that competition to be the people that we're trying to help.
Right. Of course. Yeah. People are DQing all over the place. I see it. Yeah. It's just one of those things that as I continue to roll through the numbers, as I continue to talk to other people that are contemplating home buying, and I'm saying, you're renting for $3,200 and you think that that's the only cost. That's nowhere near the only cost. You're losing $500 a month, real money on your taxes if you're just in the 20% bracket. If you're in the 30% bracket, that number almost doubles. That number almost doubles. That means that you could literally be $4,000 a month actually out of pocket paying for that $3,200 a month rental. But no one's done the math, and certainly crash videos aren't doing that.
Well, I mean, you also have to think of the channels that say, don't buy, you should continue to rent. Like rents haven't gone up 40 to 50, 60% in the last 2 years.
And what are they going to continue to do over the next 10? Now, I don't think they're going to go up 20% a year or 10% a year, or even 5% a year. I think we're going to hit flat. And then if we actually do run into a tough market with some foreclosures and things like that, what happens then? Rents go up because there's less housing, and it takes the bank months, 6 months, a year to get that property even to the market after they've gotten somebody out. So this is not a smooth, easy, well, they got evicted and so the house is on the market the next month. It's not anywhere near that. And I lived through that last time. I actually bought a house that a city had taken back on a tax bill. When I got that house, it had been vacant for 3 years. 3 years. And what they had to work out with the bank was the fact that the town needed to get paid the taxes.
Well, sometimes I've had people ask me in my search criteria, you know, I say, here's my footprint, the area I want to search in. I want small multifamily. I filter down to I want side-by-side units, all my other criteria. But some of my no's are I don't want anything in an HOA. So literally, if there's an HOA, it just doesn't get sent to me. And I don't want short sales or foreclosures because of the timeline.
Right.
It's not like a foreclosure hits the MLS, you make an offer, they accept it, you buy it, and you're closed in 40 days or whatever. Right. So I like to just actually take the money, put it into the deal. If the deal works, great. If not, I know in a short period of time if it's not going to work. I'm not waiting 18 months for a bank to get as many offers in on a short sale as they can to figure out which way they're going to go.
Right. I had a short sale deal. It's the longest deal in my portfolio ever. I had a short sale deal take 9 months to close. Took 9 months to close. It was an investment property, but it took 9 months to close. And that was at a time where I didn't have capital to do a bunch of different deals. Like that was the one deal that I got locked in on. So was there opportunity cost of buying that deal? Absolutely. Did it all work out? Yeah, it did. But 9 months, I lost out on, or I couldn't do 2 other deals because I was locked in on that one. And that one was going to be an owner op deal. Yeah. So it's something that a lot of people don't consider. So thanks, Dion, for coming and hanging out. One of the things that I want to run past you is I wanted to kind of segment like what we do sometimes is basically create a video within a video. I know that this would be a perfect. You're getting prepared. This is exactly what I want to have happen. Dion's more fun lubed up. He's a lot of fun anyway, but he's more fun, even more fun on alien vodka and a flask.
I'm a lot easier to put up with. Remember, you can't drink all day unless you start early.
Yeah, that's true. So I wanted to jump in real quick. I think I'll kick it off, and this might melt your face a little bit, so I apologize, but I know that you handle things well in stride. So that's why I'm going to do this. But we'll jump in. We'll actually do a quick video. So I'm just going to introduce it like we're going to chop this out for folks. So what's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with my good buddy Dion from Dion Talk Financial Freedom. How you doing, Dion?
Howdy. Doing great. I'm excited for this.
You and me both. So Dion doesn't know what he's actually excited for, other than I promised it might melt his face off. So one of the things that I was actually considering is Dion is the inventor, the founder of the binder strategy. The binder strategy is nothing short of spectacular. You can check out the binder strategy on Dion's channel called Dion Talk Financial Freedom. So while that is absolutely an awesome strategy, generally speaking, so sum it up for us, Dion, in less than 60 seconds, because then I'm getting ready to melt your face off.
Most tenants aren't aware of what current rents are, and they live in fear of somebody buying their property and jacking the rents up so much that they can't live there. So instead of kicking a tenant out and doing a rehab and then setting rents where I want them, or raising the rents on a tenant and having them leave or trash the place, the binder strategy is actually called the binder because it's a 3-ring binder. It can be done through emails or through text messages, but I like to, when possible, go in person and show a 3-ring binder of all the rentals in the area that are for rent that are the same size, and show the tenant what the actual area average rents are, and then ask them what they think is fair. Because when I buy properties, they are significantly lower than area average rents. And over the last 2 years, my tenants quickly fell behind on area average rents because rents went up 30 to 40% in my area. So my tenants then have asked me to raise the rent 20 to 28% in the last year, just because area average rents went up so much. They knew that moving would be expensive. They know that my best bet would be to kick them out, rehab the units, and set it to highest rents. But I don't want to do a rehab and I don't want to displace a tenant. So this strategy actually makes the tenants happy, gets me a rent increase that's more than what I would probably have just increased on my own. And I'm trying to share that with as many people as possible, because the bad name that landlords get is because sometimes we do things just like a business, and we take the human element out and forget that that's a family we're dealing with.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So one of the things that Dion does with that binder strategy is, again, it gives them the chance to weigh in on the rents. Now, that's because Dion and I are amazing landlords. We're really good at what we do, hence why we get paid to teach people. This is the thing that people are not taking into consideration. If you are a tenant, listen up. You need to do a reverse binder strategy on your landlords. That's what you need to do. You need to go above and beyond and actually say to the landlord, "Hi, Mr. Landlord, we actually really like this place. If you do, in fact, like that place, but it's typically nice to be complimentary. You hit them with, hey, we actually really like this place. What we'd like to do is talk to you about paying more in rent. The only thing that we ask for in return is a 2-year lease. I would, if Dion, did I just melt your face off? I might.
No, it's happened to me.
Okay, perfect.
My lowest binder strategy was a reverse binder where the tenant came to me and said, hey, we're on a month-to-month lease. I see you're fixing the place up. We don't want to get kicked out. And the tenant said, if we raise the rent $145, I think it might have been $155, but it was under two. It's the only one ever under $200. They said, could we sign a 1-year lease? And I was like, yeah, they got to me first. But absolutely. I signed it right on, that I had it done within the week.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this reverse binder strategy is pure gold. If you are a tenant and you are not going to your landlord saying, hey, we actually really like the place. With that being said, we'd like to understand, this is what we would like to offer. Maybe you offer it first, maybe you just ask. Depending on your personality, you pick what you feel best about. But I think at the end of the day, you just want to have that conversation where you're saying, guys, we would like to stay, we'd like to work out a number where we can actually put something together where we can stay here for a 2-year period. Guys, at the end of the day, that is going to come off amazing to the landlord, because I can tell you in the over 3,000 tenant years I have, it's actually never happened even once. Not even once.
One thing to take away for this, for the landlords, if you're approached with this, or if you use the binder strategy like I do and try to get a 2-year lease by telling tenants, like, if you want to protect this rent increase and stop it from happening again next year, we can sign a 2-year lease, is that in some states, a lease that's longer than 12 months, the tenant signatures need to be notarized.
Correct.
The owners don't, but the tenants do.
Absolutely. Check your local laws. In almost every case, 2-year leases are legal. However, they do need to be notarized. As Dion was saying, there's a number of states that you require that. But if you are a tenant, this is clearly one of the best strategies that you can have to take control of your housing costs and really make a 2-year plan. Maybe you're making that 2-year plan to get a house. Maybe you're making that 2-year plan because you're saying, I'm only going to be in this job for 2 years because it's under, I'm going to be in contract. I'm going to be somewhere else. There are a number of scenarios where this works, but I can tell you, as a landlord of 124 units and over 3,000 tenant years, coming up on 4,000 tenant years worth of rentals, it's never happened even once. I've never even been offered it one time. Dion's gotten it once. And again, he took less. He took less than what he would have taken because they reached out to him. He'd absolutely, I'd lock in for 2, would you? If somebody came to me and said, hey, I'll pay you 10% more or 5% more.
Yeah, well, most of my rents are where I want them. The binder strategy helps when there's times like these last 2 years. Normally, I don't use it again on a tenant after the first time. So them approaching me, I'm even in this case where it was less. I was like, absolutely. I get a tenant. It was just a 1-year lease, but I get a locked in tenant. I don't have to worry about tenant turnover. That's a win.
It's a huge win. And again, you're still going to have that term afterwards. We can decide after the 2 years. But again, if you have multiple properties, you can turn your focus elsewhere, and you can almost use that as a bank account saying this money is basically guaranteed. They were a tenant for years. They've been awesome. There's no reason to believe that they're not going to continue to be awesome. So it's just one of those strategies that I think tenants need to be a lot more focused on, get in front of it. That little bit of money that you're offering up is going to get you a whole lot of security and pretty significant pay reduction in the next 2 years. Even if it just saves you $100 or $150 a month. Are you so wealthy that you don't want $2,400 to $3,000 extra in the next 2 years just for living in the same place you're living in today? I think not. So Dion, tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate you taking the time with us today. Don't anyone go anywhere. We're actually going to jump back into the live stream, but we appreciate the time you took us. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and we will make sure to see you on the other side. Okay, back into the live stream, guys. We have super chats and we've got questions that we need to answer for these folks. So let's super chat it up. Super chats always come first because we've only got 90 minutes today. All right. Phil Nealon, thanks for taking time to live on Sunday. I'm always happy to do it. I enjoy doing this. We just had to cut it down to 90 minutes because I only have so much time with my kids now they're in school.
It gives me time to go to an actual boat show today. I'm gonna go look at boats.
Leave your checkbook and your credit card at home.
Exactly.
You're like, I haven't had a house in a while. What if I combine the two, a house and a boat?
Mhm.
And that's widely acceptable in your region.
Yeah.
There's a lot of houseboats in your region. I love it. Angel R, thanks for the super sticker, my friend. Always feel free to ask a question. Nathan Merith, thank you as always for your time and your value. Nathan, I'm happy to do it. It is my pleasure. Again, each and every super chat entry in gets you a chance at some lumberjack merch. We'll roll the dice at the end of the day and we'll see what number comes up. Let's see. Legacy Op, here's to a great Sunday. Thank you, Legacy. I agree. It will be a great Sunday. KLRB Properties, $20 for the super chat. Thank you, KLRB. I see that you've got questions below, and that is smart. If you do a bigger amount like that and you can't fit your entire question in, just hit that super chat for the bigger amount and I'll read down below and get your question because I see that it was a number of pieces and parts too. So KLRB Properties, hey guys, I don't recall you guys talking about what you guys talking about is on my third home in a row in the last 7 years living them for 24 months each, closing on my third deal Tuesday, tax free. This one paid me $57K per year. Wow. Using my home as an asset, not a liability. KLRB Properties average income per family in my area is $63K. That is absolutely spectacular. Dion, any thoughts on that? You can't really see all the question. But...
No, it's okay. I think one of the things I would like to figure out for us, the REI vendors, to get better at is when a super chat goes in, because there's only so much room. A lot of people do a super chat, and then their question is 3 comments above it,
yes,
2 comments below it.
Yes.
So I want to make sure we get to them.
Yes, we will work. We will get better at that. I promise.
And the hardest part when we get numbers like that on a market is we don't know that local market.
Sure.
You know, what was a good deal last week? What is the yield? What was the time commitment? Like all of those things that go into it. So it's hard to say if it's a win. It's hard to say if it's a loss.
Anytime you got $57K that you got paid to be in a property, that's a win. I'll give you the win, guys.
There you go.
Let's see real quick. All right. So I saw Brian, good morning. And then hold on 1 second, Brian.
I got Brian's
here we
questions
go.
above it ways.
For a personal residence, what rule of thumb would you recommend? 3x income, 25% take home pay, or something else? Brian, that's a great question. For me, it's a comfort perspective. I'm cheap. So for me, it was never, in the very beginning, it was a third just because that's what the banks would let me do. As I get further on in my investing in my personal career, it was, I want as little going into this house as possible. But as far as down payment, but I didn't mind a bigger monthly payment because I had my rental income also coming in along with my job. So for me, it really is a personal comfortability perspective. The one thing that I would say is talk to a CPA and strategize with them. Even if you have to pay them $250 for an hour, and a lot of CPAs all over the country, $250, $350, they're pretty expensive. But set up a time where you spend an hour talking to them and saying, these are my goals and this is what I want to try and do. The last piece of advice that I will give you on this, and this is advice, talk to a CPA or EA, try and make sure that they're property people, that they own properties themselves is the best, or that they have a number of landlords, larger landlords that they work with, because you want to start to steal some of those strategies for your business. And if they already know those, because the guy paying them $10,000 a year is already making them look at those strategies, then you can benefit from that. So talk to a CPA, talk to an EA, enrolled agent, a step above a CPA, because they test every year with the IRS. Make sure that you're getting that information with them, strategizing with them. That way you're picking a property price tag that makes the most sense for you financially at that time, but also allowing for growth. But it really comes down to what it is on your strategy. So work with the people that are experts on the tax side, because this is a major area that homeowners and small investors don't account enough for that part of the strategy, which gives them massive returns. And it absolutely helps on the expenses side. It doesn't really increase revenue, but it massively helps on the expenses. And when you're trying to make more money and when you're trying to make more margin, it can either come in with more revenue or it can come in from having lower expenses. Dion, hit me with what your thought is on this.
So I have a different track that both you and I have used. And so this takes away the, is it a percentage of my income or any of that kind of thought? Home buyers usually buy based on payment. How much can I afford to pay? So you're thinking, I make this much, 25% or 30% would be this much. That's how much I can afford to pay. Mm-hmm. I would look at doing a house hack, a small multifamily, a house with an ADU, something where you're living for free or getting paid to live there. At the point in your investing, when you finally want to have your own single family house that you're going to live in, I'm not even there yet. I live in a 1,200 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a garage and a shed, my own driveway. I never see the neighbors. Like I have no reason to go out and go. I just want a place because I don't want my wall touching someone else. But if I do, if I want to buy a boat and live on it in the marina, here's what the caveats are going to be. I can rent this unit out for $2,000 a month. That's my payment. I will still mentally be living for free because I will move from the unit I'm in into the place I'm going to reside in, either the single family house or the boat or the whatever, $2,000 a month. That would be the slip fee, the maintenance, all that kind of stuff on the boat. If I'm going to buy a house, it's going to be my mortgage payment is going to be no more than what I can rent my unit out for. $2,000 a month in my area gets you a pretty decent house.
Yeah, true story. Yeah. Again, these numbers that I shared are based on a single family home without hacking, with no hack there, with no roommates, or it having an ADU on the back. Guys, there has never been a better opportunity to define what it is that you're looking for and then track it and watch it. But don't be fooled. If you're paying about the same in rent than you would be a mortgage, you are majorly and massively losing out on the financial benefit of home ownership. So the crash and crisis and all that stuff, I'm not saying it's not true. They're reading a chart from you, but they're not giving you all the data to make an educated decision. Sam Farho. Hey, Sam, thanks so much for the super chat for the $10. I appreciate it. Name is entered in the t-shirt drawing. Sam says, I missed the live the last 2 weeks. Sam, we missed you the last 2 weeks, but excited that you're back and happy to take any questions. All right. So when we finish with super chats, the policy is going to be that I'm going to just jump back to the top and start going through it. Brian Beck, I think I missed yours, but thanks for all your help encouraging all of us to become financially free. It is truly our pleasure. I know Dion and I love doing this stuff. I think it's probably best that we shut off the camera in between videos.
Because the only reason people are still here.
It's true.
Some people would laugh, but they wouldn't come back. I had one quick question for KLRB, if they could just put it in the comments below.
Yeah. Let's go.
So the strategy of using the IRS 121 rule to live in a residence for 2 years and then sell it and get up to $250,000 in capital gains tax-free for you, or $500,000 if you're married. What's the end goal? So Mindy Jensen does this too. She does what's called the live and flip. She moves into a place, all cash, lives there for 2 years, really fixes it up because it really needed it. And then when she sells, there's sweat equity, there's appreciation, there's the tax benefits. Like, it's a brilliant strategy. But she's still working.
Yep.
Like I get it, Matt, you're still working there. Sometimes you like your job, it pays well enough, you get the family time. But if you have to work,
right,
KLRB is making a ton of money and getting it tax-free.
Yes.
Are you also buying long-term rentals? Are you
Yes.
also doing something with that money that's generating consistent cash flow that doesn't require a sale or a transaction? I think you would be if you're watching this kind of content.
Yeah, I believe
a lot of people do this to generate the capital, but then put that capital to work.
Guys, what Dion's talking about is very, very important. The time of the BRRR strategy. If you watch the video that the three amigos we just put out, I think it was Friday on my channel, and talking about the one strategy that we're doing and the one that we're running away from, all of us are running away from BRRRs. None of us are doing BRRRs. BRRRs are scary as anything right now. I'm talking to appraisers. I'm talking to all these different people. Burrs are going to get crushed and people are not getting, we just saw a post where somebody said, hey, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this property. I was the property appraised for 40,000 bucks light and I can't get all my money out. That's going to delay their journey at least 2 years on one deal. That's going to delay their journey 2 years. Go ahead, Dion.
Add to the appraisal coming in low that rates are double where they were when they started the BRRRR project.
Correct. And rates are likely only going up from here. I don't see any end in sight when it comes to rates. I called it by the end of the year that we're in the 6s consistently. And I think, and I also called next year that we're in the 7s. I think I'm looking pretty good on both of those calls. But we'll see exactly with what velocity we do to get there. But I'm telling you, people have got to be looking at it and saying, if you started a strategy a couple of years ago, maybe the right move isn't a sellout. Maybe the right move, and in this particular case, don't know the market, don't know the deal. But if you made $57,000 on one transaction, you might look at it and say, I'm only going to make 200 bucks a month on rents. I'd take the 57. I would take the 57 if I'm going to put it back into play back in the market. And I'm going to actually get a rental property that's going to give me return on that. That's what I would look at. The Yoder. I love it. The Yoder. That's so good. The Yoder. Thank you very much for the $2. Guys, feel free to ask questions when you put in the super chats. While we appreciate it and love the entry, we also want to do it to make sure that you guys get your questions answered. BD Rentals and Investment Properties. Thank you so much, BD Rentals. Great thoughts, gents. We appreciate that. I know that you did a great thing for us last night, pushing this content out to folks. So I really appreciate that. For the guys who did that, I really appreciate that. This was something that was really important and near and dear to my heart. Something that I thought and I'd done a lot of work on. I ran a lot of the numbers. I talked to a lot of first-time home buyers. I talked to a lot of investors. I put a lot of time and effort into those numbers that I came back to you with. And I wanted to make sure I was hearing the right story. And I think that that's where I get it. You know, fear, fear, fear. It's the negative biased. You know, I get it. But if you want to be like everybody else, do what everybody else is doing. If you want to be different than everybody else, do what they aren't doing. And largely speaking, it's the hard work. Dion, anything to add to that?
No, that was good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will make sure that I will, I'm going to cut that out, and that's going to be in a lot of videos moving forward. So I appreciate that soundbite.
I've got some more for you.
Yeah.
Got your bleep button ready?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that that's going to help me so much. That might hurt. That might hurt just a little bit. Let's see. Actually, another point on KLRB's questions. If you live in a property for 2 years and then rent it for, say, 10 years and then sell, do you get the capital gains benefit? No, I think it's 2 out of 5 years, isn't it?
2 out of the last 5. Yeah.
2 out of the last 5. Right. Yeah. Because we actually, thanks, the Yoder, new to the super chat. Good to have you. That's all good. Ask your question, Yoder. I'll still answer it. That's one of the things that we talk a lot about is we actually had a property where we were looking at it. We're like, we had lived there for 2 years and we hadn't sold it yet. And it was coming up on the 5-year. And I was like, do we? But I looked at the numbers and the income on that property is over 2,000 bucks a month. I was like, I'm not going to sell it. I might make a couple hundred, but it's $2,000 a month. And more importantly was we had done some work and realized that we could get another lot out of it. And a lot in that historic neighborhood is worth about 200,000 bucks. So I said, we're going to keep this one. We refied it, but that's it. We just kept it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it there. Like you said, if you can get the 57 versus $200 a month,
yeah,
you know, your 57,000 reinvested at just a 10% return would get you what, $5,700 a year.
Exactly. That's exactly.
So if you can beat that on rents, you can actually work the logic. I mean, I might go a little less on rents and avoid the work of selling and then the work of buying. But I mean, I wouldn't go $200 a month versus 57,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Run those numbers. And Dion just gave you the exact formula, which is if you're putting that 57,000 to work or even waiting to then put it to work, is that going to get you a $200 a month return? My guess is if it isn't, you're doing it wrong. That's my guess. Sammy Farho, you did ask the question, so I wanted to answer that. What is the cost for remodeling everything interior in a 1,500 square foot home? However, roof, HVAC, and foundation are good. Well, Dion, I'm not going to make you answer that because you've yet to do a gut rehab. But you're going to do one. When Dion does, I will tell you this, when Dion does his first gut, which I think will happen in the next few years now that he's got free time, I will fly out there and I'll walk through it with you.
Well, I figured I'd just be on the phone with you 3 hours a day. No worries.
We can do that too, but I'll fly out there. And then Dion allowed me to participate in a granite project that he was helping a friend with, and I had a blast working with those vendors. Some of them didn't like me very much, but we got a great
Can't
job.
imagine.
We got, I know it's not hard to believe, but we got a great job at the end of the day, and they got paid, and so that's what they're in this for. Let's see. The Yoder, I think, nope, you still haven't asked that question yet. Hey, Matthew Paris, howdy. And sorry guys, I know I'm jumping around. Brian, first, I'm scared of two things. PETA, okay. Pain in the you-know-what. Tenants, roommates. Second, repairs, as I'm not handy in the least. Brian, I wasn't handy at all in the least. I didn't have YouTube to look at. YouTube has, and that's actually what my course is going to be focused on. My course is going to be focused on the hands-on, self-managing landlord. Tips, tricks, when you run into a problem, this is how you handle it. Dion? Dion's
So
handy.
I wasn't handy when I started.
Mhm.
I'm not handy now.
Yes, it's true.
And I don't want to be handy in the future.
Yeah.
Just in case, I don't want to say this person specifically, but I'm lazy. I am not investing. I wasn't investing to buy another job. I just did a video. It came out this morning at 5 o'clock. I don't know what time it is, 8 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
On Graham Stephan had a tenant trash his property.
Yeah.
So there was a whole bunch of trash in there. And like I've had a hoarder house, like to the roof hoarder house stuff.
Yeah.
It cost me $400.
Right.
To call a junk hauler and say, hey, there's a bunch of stuff. You can keep whatever you find. And they were excited to go treasure hunting through there.
Yep.
When you have something break, 10% of gross rents and 10% for repairs and maintenance. In my case, this is what I do. And 5% for vacancy is set aside into an account. That's tenant's money designed to fix things. When a tenant calls me and says, hey, the cabinet door broke because my 4-year-old was hanging on it, I go to that account. I'm happy to take money from the tenant's money and pay a handyman to go there and fix the cabinet. I could go and save money myself, but what's the point? I bought the properties with the math equation of 15% of gross rents. It's about $3,000 a month going into an account now across the board that I've never come close to touching. When you aggregate those over a few months, it's so much money that I look forward to. Like, I have a handyman going out in the next couple of months, just checking the dates on all the water heaters, and anything over 8 years. Anything over 10 years in the garage is going to get replaced. Anything over 8 years inside the house, if it's inside where it could damage the flooring, is going to get replaced. The tenants are paying for that out of the account that they've been putting money into. Sure. You just have to kind of run it like a business. And this is not R&D, but it's money designed to protect your asset. And that alleviates a lot of that. I went a couple of times and worked next to handyman to figure out how long the scope of a job, to figure out if I was getting charged a fair rate or not. But my tools came out of the closet one time this entire year, to go to my daughter's house and fix something.
That's perfection. Yeah, you can't just call the handyman on that one, right? I love you, honey.
I was tempted. I was like, but I don't want to. Yeah.
You don't understand. I had slides today. I got slides today. You don't understand. Awesome. And so to finish Brian's question, are these legit concerns or just limiting beliefs that I should just push through? So here's what I would tell you. There is a likelihood that if you're asking that question now, that it's a limited belief, and that 5 or 10 years from now, you will likely have an opportunity or need to push through that at that point, and then you will look backwards with regret. You will look back in 5 years, you will look back in 10 years and go, oh, all the opportunity that I missed because I wasn't willing to make a mistake, I wasn't willing to learn, and I wasn't willing to recognize that, you know what, it's uncomfortable, but that's where growth comes. And that's where opportunity comes. I'm not saying go buy some dilapidated house that's a gut redo with foundation and roof issues. That's beyond newer investors. But these other items that you've raised, they are absolutely within the bailiwick of tenants and friends and people that you know living with them. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it after a year, just don't renew the lease. Just don't renew the lease. You can literally say, nah, this isn't a fit for me. Dion, thoughts on this?
So I think the verbiage of the question, are these legitimate concerns? every concern is legitimate. I don't care what you're concerned about, but you mitigate it.
Right.
A lot of new investors fear, what if I have a property sit vacant for a long time and I have to cover the mortgage? You mitigate that by thinking, how much might I have to lower my rent to get a tenant in there? Because if you go down far enough, a tenant will move in. So that's the numbers you start using to run your deals. You might get sued. That's a concern. How do you mitigate that? Well, you have good insurance, property insurance on each property, an umbrella policy. I use leverage as a form of asset protection. The banks are in first position, and I actually fix things. So that fear goes away. What if a tenant trashes your property? It's going to happen. Plan for it. Count on it. Expense for it. Set that money aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That includes when a tenant trashes your property. So all of those fears are legitimate concerns that we put a system in place for. Because here's my legitimate concern. What if you don't buy a rental because it's too much work? It's too risky. You might have to carry a mortgage if you don't have a tenant. You might get sued. They might trash your place. All these things that say, I can't do that. So you just have a job. And then a recession hits and you get laid off. Our fear was a recession hits and my tenants might get laid off. So we've diversified the portfolio, the tenant base, have reserves. Like we have mitigated the fear of a recession impacting our portfolio. But if you're not investing in cash flowing assets, that's a legitimate concern that we need to mitigate by buying cash flowing assets.
The thing largely to look at too, which you brought up about the tenant piece, is really important. Everyone thinks, well, I don't want to buy a house in case I might lose my job. It's still a possibility. Guess what? If you lose your job and you're renting, you're probably, with what a majority of Americans have in their bank account, you are likely 60 to 90 days away from not living there anymore. You can't really do a whole lot because in most leases, and 99% of the leases out there, they don't let you sublet. So you're in trouble on a sublet. You're in trouble with getting more roommates because that brings up costs for the landlord. It's a lot of work that you're going to have to put into this situation. If you own a home and you don't pay for 90 days, you're only being called in late. You're 90 days late. Then you go into default. Then you go into the foreclosure process. But that takes months and months and months and months and months. And because it's your home, you can mitigate that risk. You could rent out a bedroom to somebody renting. And with what you're getting on unemployment and what you can go out and side hustle for money in another job, it might be tight, but you can likely still make the number. That means you keep your house. In a rental, it's not like that because you're not going to get to sublet that piece out. So I think that that's something that people really have to focus a lot more on, that they just don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, one way to look at that is a bank doesn't want the house back. They want to find a way to keep you in it. A landlord wants a tenant out who can't pay their rent so that they can get to the next tenant.
Yeah, 100%. Karen Molnar, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Karen, you can certainly ask a question. I want to make sure that I don't miss it. Sam Farrell, also having a hard time finding insurance for this house as many don't insure it. Any thoughts? Yeah, I would talk to a broker, and the two companies, the one company that I would bring up to them, which seemingly will insure almost anything, but it's a little bit more expensive, is Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson actually has a big insurance arm. Most people don't know that. They do a lot of houses that are what I call in transition. So I bought it. It's not the best place, but I'm going to rehab it. And so their rates are more expensive than a normal rate, but I would look at Johnson & Johnson Insurance. It's the same Johnson & Johnson. I would look at a broker in your area that does Johnson & Johnson, because they likely have 2 or 3 other options that are also going to help you out there. Bones 345. I'd seen your question about getting your license and lowballing offers. For me, I think I speak for Dion too. We're never going to get our license. Dion's too damn lazy.
Long list of reasons. I don't want to have to stick to the rules that an agent does. I don't want to be sitting in front of an ethics board because I sent a letter to the owner saying, I'd be a good buyer for your property. And you can't do that as an agent. A bunch of other rules that I just don't want to have to do with. And searching on the MLS is nuanced. Even if I was an agent and had access, I'd still have 3 other agents searching for me because I give the exact same criteria to multiple agents. And in over a decade, only one time have they ever sent me the same property that I would like in a 24-hour period. So Getting your license doesn't mean you're magically going to have access to the whole MLS and you just see everything. That's not how it works. Somehow, when you put in your search criteria, not everything shows up.
Right.
And then
okay.
brokerage fees, licensing fees, annual renewal stuff. The cost is, unless you're doing like 5+ $500,000 deals a year, you're probably not going to actually see much money back for having your license.
Yeah. And I would also, when you're talking to brokers, I would have the brief conversation with them and say, hey, this is how I'm going to go after properties and offer them. I'm not going to offer on every single one, but it's likely that we'll be putting together an offer fairly frequently, like maybe once a week or once every other week, and prep them for that and have that conversation with them and say, listen, but those deals, I mean, trust me, they're going to have a lot more time on their hands to be able to do this stuff for people. And a lot of agents in the last 2 or 3 years have gotten extremely lazy. There's still the elite guys out there. There's still the everyday grinders out there. But a lot of agents have gotten very lazy because they haven't actually had to pick up a phone and make an outgoing phone call in 2 or 3 years. So that's kind of that's definitely one of the crazy things out there. All right, the Yoder, I still haven't seen a question from you. Karen Molnar, I haven't seen a question from you, and I appreciate your thank you and your super chat. Let's see here. Go ahead, Dion. Did you have something?
The Yoder, I closed on a 2-family in June with tenants. The rents are 550 lower unit, 500 upper. Both units are 1,185 square foot. New York only allows for an $89 increase. My wife said that is too much to ask for the area.
So the Yoder, what I would look at is I would look at something called a rent box. Mike Zuber from One Rent at a Time has a buy box. I have a rent box. When I'm about to bring a property to market, I start looking for 2 or 3 weeks previous. I start tracking what the units like my unit are renting for. Then when I go to market, if I have a unit that I'm bringing to market, if I'm going to market, then I actually look at what's available right then in that moment at that time. Because if I need a fast rental, I'll do a price. If I say, you know what, we've rehabbed, we've done this, we've done that, we've done the other, then at that point, I'll look at it and say, you know what, this is my number. I'm going to try that for a week and we can always adjust downward. The thing that I would tell you is if New York says it's only $89, I would look at a couple things. I would look and make sure that I don't know if it's a Section 8 property or not. But again, I would take a look at all the different aspects, but that rent box will tell you the story. It will tell you what other stuff is renting for. And that will help you have that conversation with your wife where you guys can come together and say, yeah, you know what? We can go the $89 or it's not. Largely speaking, the $89 isn't going to break you. And I would believe that if that unit that person moved out and a new person moved in, they'd be paying significantly more than that $89.
So 2 things to consider for this Yoder. The first is the binder strategy works in states with rent control.
Yep.
If you can show that the rents are $300-400 above what you're allowed to raise it, then the person is much more comfortable with the $89 raise. They're probably not going to leave or trash your place. But the second thing is really get into your local laws. I have a friend who invested in Bend, Oregon, where they have rent control. Doesn't apply unless you have a certain number of units. Doesn't apply on 4 units or less. It's only on multifamily. Doesn't apply. So I'm not saying Oregon's this way, but I'm saying each area might have one of the following rules. Doesn't apply if you're house hacking. Doesn't apply if it's a single family. So yes, there is rent control in a lot of areas, but make sure it applies to your property before you apply it to your property if it might not actually be there.
Agreed. So just again, something else to consider with that is running through Dion's scenario, my scenario, running that rent box. I know what my market and what my market rents are all the time because I always have a unit coming available, a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4, or 5. That's what happens when you have 124 units. You become basically your own mutual fund where you know everything that's going in and everything that's going out. But I would strongly encourage you, the rent box, make decisions based on information, not based on feelings. And as Dion actually had with one of his strategies, it might be one of those things where maybe you change that unit over to Section 8 when it comes to time. You know, maybe they're looking for a unit and saying, hey, this is a fantastic unit. Every Section 8 department housing authority across the country does not have enough housing. Every single one, beyond the shadow of a doubt, none of them do. So it's literally that that crazy and that bad. Sorry, I've got a contractor in the field. Give me just
That's
one.
okay. I'm going to answer a second follow-up question from Bones, who talked, and this is what my thought was when the question came up the first time. Along those lines of my earlier question, I also worry that there aren't agents who are willing to write repeat lowball deals, hence the additional benefit of a license. Your brokerage might not like it if you were doing them too much too. But the first thing is that a justifiable lowball offer? If a property comes out on the first day listed for an amount and you offer 20% less, that's a waste of yours and the agent's time. That seller doesn't know whether they're going to get inundated with a ton of offers or if yours makes sense. If you're watching days on market and you go to an agent and you say, look, I'm watching days on market in our area, the average seems to be, and whatever the number is, 5 or 10. When it's double that or 50% more than that, I'm going to make an offer at 10 or 20 or 30% lower than their asking price. I don't think very many agents would have a problem with you logically explaining the why and the reasoning behind your low offers, saying this is sitting longer than normal. I think a low offer might make sense to that seller, so I want to make as many of those as I can. I think the agents are going to understand. And if they don't, you might want to find another agent that's more investor friendly, because the agents I work with, they know that's how I work. I'm going to make an offer. It's going to be at the numbers that make sense to me. I'm not going to insult the seller. All of my deals that I used to buy in the last couple of years that were first day listings, my offers were at or above list price. I would try to negotiate later depending on how much demand there was. But now that we're seeing days on market pile up, this is where it makes sense to make those low offers. And I don't think your agents will have a problem with it.
Yep, exactly. Dion, I apologize. I only caught the last bit of your answer because I was focused on gently talking to one of my contractors. Was that the Yoder's question?
That was to Bones. It was a follow-up to Bones' question.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So the follow-up to the Yoder. Thanks for the answer. Great points, guys. Those units in the area go for $750 to $850. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a massive increase. That's the difference of probably going from single-digit returns to double-digit returns. Like that's a big number. So run that rent box, know the answer to those questions. If they are by chance Section 8 or getting some financial assistance, I would then do what Dion did and present those numbers back to those committees or to those departments of state. And sometimes they'll have some leniency because they don't want to lose the ticket. But you can also then prepare yourself for when that lease is going to be over. You understand exactly what the opportunity is for you if they decide that they want to leave, or again, just continuing to add to that, if that makes sense. All right, so let's see. Sammy Farho, what are your thoughts on how to first find an investor friendly agent other than from REI meetups? I am looking for the best. I saw your video on how to get them after that. So that's one way. The other way to find them too is look in the MLS and look at the type of property profile that you have, and then match that to, you'll see when you do that search of sold properties, you'll be able to see all the agents that actually sold those properties. When you start to see a recurring theme, the number one guy, you probably don't want that person. The number two person, you probably want that person. The reason why is because the number one person is probably that for a reason. They probably have some investors like me who are just like, yeah, it just shows up and I say, yeah, let's write an offer. Here's the number, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I would start to focus on, is I would run the numbers that way and make sure that when you're actually reaching out to those folks, you say, and then have an email that's a follow-up to a phone call. Always try and get them on the phone first, because if you can't get them on the phone to introduce yourself, it might be more difficult to get them on the phone when you're doing an offer. Dion, thoughts on that strategy?
If you were going to start investing in a new market at a distance, what's the first thing you would do? Would you go to Bigger Pockets and use their search? Would you go to local REI meetups? Would you go to social media and look on Facebook and see who's got the most contacts that's an agent in the area? Or would you find other investors and ask for a recommendation based on their, and more than just one, who do they like and who do they deal with? So that's how I would do it in a new market. I would find the investors and get the information from the source. So in your market, my recommendations come from other investors. Listen to how fast is their response time? Do they show up for inspections? Do they show up for, all of the things that matter to you that you can get from another investor that might not even matter to them, but you can ask the question and get the information. So I would start there. That's why we like local area meetups. You're going to find other investors, but not all investors go to meetups, right? So there are investors in your area that you might know that are never going to go to a real estate meetup. Like I got my brother to come over here and talk on a video. He went to one with me one time just to see what it was like, but he would never go to that. But people can call him and say, hey, what agents do you like? And which ones do you not like? And which contractors do you like? And which ones do you not like? So once you kind of know the investors in your area, that's where I would go.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through and just look for some folks that have never asked questions before. Mitchell McCauley said 0%. I think that was talking about the deduction off your taxes. Mitchell McCauley, thanks for joining the show. Since there is this a right age between renting a car, owning a home, don't you think rents will fall? So if rents fall, it will be the first time on record in 114 years. I can't speak to your market specifically, but I can speak to the US market. And I can tell you the 4 rental properties that we put up had over 250 inquiries in 48 hours. The agent had to work 12-hour days to get to all of the responses because that's what we do. And all of them are likely going to be rented by Monday, tomorrow. And all of them were 10 to 20% higher than even what the people paid last year that might have been 1-year tenants. They're trying to downsize, and that was fine. Dion, thoughts?
Couple quick caveats for Mitchell. I was looking to make sure I got your name right. Thanks for coming and checking it out. Lumberjack puts out great content. I'm super happy to be able to come here and help contribute. So market-wide rents have never gone down since we started tracking the data. In a 5-year period, rents have always gone up. There are some times when it's plateaued, but never gone down. The reason people are concerned about rents going down is because market-specific, your local area around Detroit, when car manufacturers move away, when the dot-com bubble hits Silicon Valley harder than somewhere else. An example of a small town with a mill closing down. Yes, area rents can go down like that, not market wide. We've never seen it. It's possible. Something can cause it. So we invest where we have the ability to have up to a 50% rent reduction and not have to pull money out of our pockets. So we invest with a strategy that's prepared for a rent decrease, though we've never seen one. You can also invest by keeping your properties out. Matt is in 3 different towns. So if one mill closes down, his entire portfolio is not done. I invest with my properties at least 10 miles apart next to several economic drivers like a base, a port, a college, a hospital, a large Boeing or Amazon terminal, big population, which as long as there's 2 or 3 of those there, so that something big has to happen to impact rents. And then third, you can actually diversify your tenant base. Matt's got into this in the last year. I keep about 1/3 military, 1/3 Section 8, and 1/3 working or retired. A recession doesn't impact retired people. It doesn't impact the military. There might be military cutbacks, but getting people out of the military at the end of their contracts is something that takes years to impact. Sure. A pandemic didn't even affect our portfolios in such a way that we had to do anything different. I actually have never had a late or missing rent payment by the way we screen our tenants. Having good reserves, diversified portfolio, diversified tenant base, being ready for rents to go down even though we've never seen it, makes it a very, to me, safe asset class to invest in, so much so that I don't own any stocks. I don't own any crypto. I don't own any other businesses. And I was able to retire on just rental income that is diversified in multiple ways. And I sleep like a baby.
That's true. Sometimes some would say like a Pink Panther, but I digress. Colin Danalis. I think this is the first question you've asked, Colin, so I'm appreciative to having you here in the channel. Hey guys, have you ever purchased a home that is subject to probate? Looks like a long drawn out process. Everything with probate is. I had probate on a deal take 4 years one time. And the reason why I don't consider that my longest deal is because a house wasn't involved, but 4 years to get the overall estate settled. 4 years. Looks like a long drawn out process, but we are interested in making an offer on one. We are in CT if that helps at all. Any advice? The one thing that I would tell you to do is One Rental at a Time has Rylas Dana on, and he is actually an attorney that does a lot of work with estates and probates. So I would actually look up Rylas Dana. I believe, does he have his own channel? I can't remember.
I haven't. I've only seen him on Zuber's channel.
Yeah, so I've only seen him on Zub's channel as well, but look up Rylas Dana on One Rental at a Time. He is that attorney. I don't know how universal probate is. I know that it's more specifically to state. But I would at least watch some of his content. That way he'll probably give you the right questions to ask when you then actually ask either the court or an attorney to really better understand that. Because I can tell you, anything that I've done with probate was extremely long, extremely drawn out. And it was just like shouting into a black hole to get an answer. And then eventually you just like wake up one day and all of a sudden there was an answer to a question you'd asked 3 months earlier. Dion, thoughts?
I've not purchased any through probate. All my deals are from the MLS with traditional lending, no short sales, no foreclosures, no probate. I have helped a friend sell through probate. And even though their family was very amicable, there was a lot of delays like you talked about, because you have to get everybody who's involved with how the probate's going to be divided to agree to whatever happens. Just like with the short sale, the bank has to agree that, okay, we've got enough offers to know what the best route to take is. Probate works the same way. It's not that it's a bad option. It's that be ready for a long time commitment.
Yeah. And the challenge is when that offer is in, likely you won't be able to write other offers because your down payment, your money, and all those things are going to be spoken for unless you're able to run 2 tracks. Just keep in mind that might have opportunity costs like the story that I talked about earlier. Ironwood Workman, I saw your question before you retracted it. And so Dion's brain doesn't melt. Our location, my location, Dion's is actually in just outside of Tacoma. And
I always say all of my properties are between Tacoma and Olympia and Washington, but not in either. Cities suck.
Exactly. It's true. So that is his location. Springfield Sniper, I saw your question too. Vegas home search, it's going well. I'm just watching prices drop. More inventory, but now inventory is starting to slow down. But now we're starting to see who's desperate. We're starting to see people that need to sell. So we're definitely starting to see some opportunity there. But you know what? Still higher than last year. The numbers are still higher than they were last year. And they are crazy higher than they were 3 years ago. I think Phoenix, Vegas, Boise, I think they're going to be the areas hardest hit. And so because it's a second home, because it costs me nothing to wait, and because I can pounce when I get an amazing deal, I can wait. It costs me literally $0 to wait, nothing. So it's not like a homeowner waiting to buy that's currently renting, that if you miss the first, part, you got to go back and watch that part of the video. Ernest Petrilli. Hi, Ernest. I appreciate you asking a question. I'm excited that you're here. Question about rent by room rates going up too. My short answer is yep. Yep, for sure. I think it's the thing that people make a mistake comparing rental room rates to. They make the mistake comparing a 4-bedroom to a 4-bedroom. That's not what the asset is. The asset is 4 individual rooms, right? 4 bedrooms. So it's not a 4-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, it's 4 individual rooms. So what's the cost of a, excuse me, 1-bedroom apartment with the amenities that that house has? That's the calculus. That's the math that I think people should be running. Dion, your thoughts?
Well, the by the room also opens up more for traveling nurses,
sure,
or corporate rents or
sure,
insurance rents. I mean, you have so many different options with 1 bedroom. The problem is renting by the bedroom. While it's Todd Baldwin is doing amazing, right? Yes. And there are several investors who rent by the room and do great. I have a friend who is not really an investor, but they rent out 1 room because they've got a bedroom and a bathroom all by themselves, so they just rent it out. It's kind of a form of house hacking that they won't admit is house hacking. But bedroom to bathroom count,
yes, matters,
is what makes it possible. So very few houses actually make it work. You have a 4-bedroom, 1 bath. That's not going to work out so great by the room. But a 4-3 or a 4-4, absolutely. 2-2, sure. But so I've got a duplex that's a 2-2 that I'm considering doing by the room that way too, or short term. If both sides ever empty at the same time, I'll turn it into that. That's always the challenge is going to be, can you find enough bathrooms, not bedrooms?
That's true. You want to see that good ratio. But again, my competition, if put yourself in the renter's shoes, the renter looks at it and says, all right, I can get a studio completely by myself, but it's going to be small. It's not going to have laundry. It's not going to have X, 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 and X. And that's going to cost me $1,200. If I house hack a room, it's going to be $700 or $800. Save myself $400 a month. And the house has a whole lot more amenities. That's what I would be tracking, because I've house hacked as well, much like Dion is house hacked. Those are the numbers that I was looking at. Was I wanted to make sure that I had all the amenities. So I had washer and dryer in unit. I had a dishwasher. I had enough cabinet space and enough pantry space and enough bathrooms and bathroom space that it was really, you don't feel the impact of that person truly living with you. Or you could just be like Dion and be a nomad.
And travel enough to where it doesn't matter where you live.
Right. He goes and just, here's the best part. He doesn't have to pay for a house sitter. So
no. And if you do a YouTube channel, do a background that you can take everywhere you go with you, so nobody knows where you're at.
That's true. That's true. He is a real life version of Carmen Sandiego. Let's see. Roland Crespo, thank you for answering Colin Denalis. He has an attorney, Al Nicoletti. You guys see that there in the chat. If Roland's a stand-up guy, and my experience with him has been good. So if he's recommending somebody, obviously it's not advice, but that person's got a license, talk to them and see if that's a fit for those guys. Tom Kine, you rock. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Good to have you here, my friend. Glad to have you as much as you're glad to be here. Ernest Petrilli, I'm getting almost 1,000 for each room. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, I know that in some of Todd Baldwin's places, what's interesting is out west and newer construction, it's mainly because of that you have a very high bedroom to bathroom count. In the Northeast, it's the exact opposite. You can have 4, 5, 6 bedrooms with 1 or 1.5 bathrooms. It's a problem. So house hacking here doesn't work out nearly like it does on the West Coast, because in 90% of them, you are going to be sharing bathrooms with those people. That's just reality.
Did you see Sam's question on the BRRR?
I didn't. Let me roll.
Here, I'll read it. It was above the investor one. It said, so what would you do with a BRRR project? Offer much less to purchase to be on the safe side and take care of the downside in the future?
I would be more conservative. So one, I'd be more conservative in my offer. Number 2 is I wouldn't be considering it as a BRRR. I would be good.
For me, the thing that's changed with the BRRR right now is interest rates are and prices. They're too inconsistent right now to say, here's my plan. Millennial Mike is learning this. He started 2 BRRR projects about 6 months ago. He's coming up on the refinance point. Interest rates have doubled. Prices have gone up, but not enough to justify being able to pull out all of his money. So if I was going to do a BRRR today, which I might, I would not use hard money or any short-term lending that I absolutely had to refinance out of, whether I left money in the deal or took money out for it to work. So I would use my own capital, or even if, let's say you do a refinance on one of your other properties, a second, don't refinance a low rate to a bad one, or take out a home equity line of credit, to use your own money that you can control how long it takes you to pay back. That's what I would avoid right now with the BRRR project, is anything where if you don't get it done within a year, your hard money can kill your deal. I don't want to be in that position. So if you use your own money and you're comfortable with, I can't refinance because of whatever happens in the economy in the next 6 months, and I had to leave every cent in that deal, would it still be worth doing? That's the BRRR I would go after now.
Yeah, I think so a lot of real estate investors talk about 2 main things when they recognize that a recession is happening, or you're in one, or one's coming, and you don't really have a positive financial outlook. It's about capital preservation and risk mitigation. Those are the 2 main areas: capital preservation and risk mitigation. If you saw the video that we did last week, the number 1 strategy that I have in this market is capital preservation and risk mitigation. And that means a lot more Section 8 tenants. That's what we're going to do, because it's less money on the monthly, but the aggregate, I believe, with no evictions, largely no evictions, and and just understanding that job loss doesn't matter in most cases, because even if they're contributing $200 a month, you can do anything for $200 a month. There's no job. I mean, you can work one shift in a coffee shop and you're going to make 200. At least around here, if you're any good with your tips and you know how to make a coffee. Roldan Crespo, thank you very much for the big thumbs up. I appreciate that. Roldan's a great guy. He's done a great job with a lot of the spreadsheets. He puts my spreadsheets on steroids because I am okay with spreadsheets. I am decent. I am functional. But Roldan just, he makes them part of him. They're phenomenal anytime he's touched a spreadsheet we've seen. Robert Fiona, $2. Thanks for the super chat, Robert. Let me roll up and see what your
I've got it here.
What is it? Go ahead.
His question from Robert. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate this. Do you think it's worth it to insulate boiler pipes? If so, which type should I use?
I absolutely think it makes sense to do boiler pipes. I would do, there is a condensed yellow fiberglass pipe wrap. I would use that. And what's really cool is just buy it based on the size that you need. You can get it at Home Depot, you can get it at Lowe's, but you can also get it at local plumbing supplies. Since I know that you're in the state, FW Web actually carries that stuff. However, you can buy it online cheaper than any of those three places, except for maybe the depot. But it's a yellow fiberglass condensed. It actually covers the pipe. Just make sure you have your pipe measurement correct. What's really cool about it is that it's actually self-adhesive. So you rip the self-adhesive strip on there, you get it on the pipe, you close it, you roll it over, and you're done. Then what you can do further from there is you can, if you need to, but you don't have to, you can then also tape the pieces together with like a white, tape. Because that's what color it is. That's what it matches. It's actually, it looks really, really good. Dion?
I'm glad you answered that one because I would have had no clue because I don't live in Siberia.
That's true. He does not live in Siberia, although the average temperature is only 9 degrees warmer where Dion lives. But he would have you, he would have you think that, average. He would have you think that he's somehow like living in Honolulu with the difference of the weather between there and here. And I won't stand for it.
Last year, I think we had 2 days with snow on the ground. 2.
Well, we had 9 PAL events last year.
Okay.
That 9 degrees does make a little bit of a difference. Go ahead.
Sorry, Robert had a follow-up question here, and I'll take this one.
Yep.
Currently have a tenant with rental assistance good till December 1st. Section 8 will only pay $13.50 and won't allow her to pay the remaining $2.50 out of pocket. Do they usually act like this? I thought Section 8 had a tenant portion. Same tenant who can't get fuel assistance because she pays too much. Don't understand how you are able to work with these programs. Laugh out loud. So, or lots of love, not sure. So, Robert, the program does have a tenant portion depending on that tenant's income. If the tenant has an income to where Section 8 will pay 100% because the tenant qualifies for that, they might qualify to pay 90%, then the tenant will pay 10. But if this tenant qualifies for the program to pay for 100%, the tenants aren't allowed to pay above what the program will cover in your area, unless you can justify it. So this worked in my one county that I'm in. The other county wouldn't, so I don't work with them. But they won't do the work for you. They have a chart. They go, our chart says we can only pay this much, and in some cases it's 10% more based on demand and some other factors. So it sounds like $13.50 is the most. This one tenant that you have in there is probably qualified for 100% assistance. So yeah, they're not going to let them pay more than the total benefit. You might get another Section 8 tenant in there where Section 8 pays $500 and the tenant pays $850. Still a $13.50 is the total, right? But if you can use the binder strategy through emails with your Section 8 program, find comparable rentals in the area that have the same number of bedrooms. Section 8 does not care about garages, doesn't care about pools, doesn't care about family rooms or dens or any other amenities. It's just bedroom count. Find properties with the same number of bedroom counts that rent for more. Send those to your housing authority and say, these are the comps I'm using to set my rents at the 250 above. So you're at, is that $1,600? That you want to set the rents at. My housing authority, according to their list, said that my property was worth $1,800. You pulled it up on the chart, and I showed comps at 23 and 2,400, and I said I'm only asking for 2,200. They acquiesced, so I have had that tenant in there for the last 2.5 years now at $2,200 a month when their cap was $1,800. Next year, their cap is going up to $2,300, and Matt has a website that we'll try to put in the comments below after the video.
Sure.
where you can find out what the actual allowable rent in your area is and what the changes are for next year. That's how it is to work with these programs. Sometimes you have a county, like I have, Thurston County, Washington is amazing, and I have my Section 8 tenants there. Pierce County, Washington is a crap hole, and I would never own a Section 8, have a property with Section 8 tenants there until they have a complete personnel change in the housing authority for Pierce County, Washington. Not that I want to call anybody out by name, but if it wouldn't go towards the viewers, I would flip them off right now.
Right. That does.
Anyway.
I only gets us demonetized. Don't do that.
Right.
Beth's Reverso. I just saw her pop up. Beth, thanks so much for your input here. Beth is real estate to the stars and also talks to me every once and Dion every once in a while. In fact, Dion,
She's coming over this week to do some videos on the slides.
Show off. I'm not moving to the west, even if it does mean I can get to hang out.
I found a slide that you can use.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can come and do videos on the slides.
That's perfect. So Beth, who is an amazing real estate agent and also flipper and real estate investor. I only ever use my own money on BRRRRs. Anything else is too stressful and risky. All of 10 leave money in the deal. I'll tend to leave money in the deal too if it makes sense. So what Beth's meaning there is that because she's using her own money in the deal, she'll rehab it, she'll redo the work, she'll do all that stuff, get it all done. Then she'll refi it, but she won't refi herself out of profit, because that's another major mistake that BRRRR people make, is that they'll refi themselves if they get the number that they want, but based on the rate being so much higher, you can literally create a deal that on a monthly basis you have to write a check for. And that's a major no-no. That's why you have to be ultra conservative with BRRRRs right now, is because rates could easily be another half a point or a point higher in 60 or 90 days. And that means that you're likely, if you refi and take all the money that they're offering you, you likely will not be able to find a tenant that can pay that much. Jay Smith, do you know if Michael Zuber will lower his price in his course? No, it's the best deal on the internet. It really is. He's got like 100 hours of training in there. There's other courses that are 4 and 5 and 6 times and 10 times more expensive that have 8 hours in them or 10. So I've taken the course. Dion, you?
So we only have a few minutes left up here, so we're going to get through it quick as you can, but I have a couple of comments on Zuber's course.
Okay.
And I'll be transparent. I did a review of his course when I took it. All of the information that is in Zuber's course, you can get on his YouTube channel. 7,000 videos to filter through to find the content. What you're paying for when you take Zuber's course, which is a few $100s, it's more if you want the one-on-one time with him, which he actually doesn't want people to take, because Mike is like us. We are not investing to create another job. We are not investing. We're not making YouTube to create another job. So you can pay more to get your personal time with him. But if you want the 700 hours filtered down to, these are the videos in the chronological order that it would make sense in a course from the content creator. So Mike knows he's not done self-managing. So we have that in there. He's not done house hacking. So we have that in there. He's not done whatever content he hasn't done. He's got in that content. And most of his experts do come on and talk on his channel, but you'd have to filter through 700. So that's really what you're paying for with a course like that. It's such a time saver.
It is.
For a proven strategy. It's not like this is a college professor who's never run a business teaching you how to run businesses. This is Zuber and all of his experts who've done the strategies they're teaching, filtered down in a classroom format. So normally I'm against courses. You can pay $12,000 for a weekend course. Go spend $12,000 on a property and lose it all. You'll learn more than you will in any weekend course.
That's true. Yep, I would agree with that. And I know that a lot of what I taught in there is worth the weight of that course, and what you taught in there too is worth what that course costs. I saw a shirt, lettered, screen printing, and embroidery. I want to make sure to answer that question because it was a super chat. Thank you very much for the $4.99 super chat. You're entered in to win the shirt as well, the Lumberjack Landlord shirt. Prices are reducing and houses are sitting longer, but it's cheaper to rent than to purchase currently in many local areas. That's a great question. However, not 100% accurate. What we covered in the beginning of this video, what's very interesting is as you look at the beginning of this video and you look at the actual numbers, it's a huge, huge tectonic shift in understanding that in many cases, rents are about what mortgage payments are, but with the massive tax deductions that you get from owning the home, or the income that you can produce from the home, it becomes really a no-brainer. And that's even with 3.5% and 5% down. I'd encourage you all to run the numbers and look at it, but I think that's largely what you're going to find. Dion, thoughts?
And since it was a super chat, I'll go through the first half of Shirt
Okay.
Lizard's question. I found it for you.
Great.
It says, good morning, guys. Prices in my area have doubled in the last 24 months.
Huh.
Pretty much similar to my area.
Sure.
I think we're at like 90% up in 2 years. But rents have increased at a slower pace, maybe 25%. Do you think higher interest rates will continue to push rents higher? So yes, I think rents are going to continue to push higher for, I would say, the next few months. I like to plan on rents staying flat for the next 5 years. Well, my deal makes sense if it stayed flat for 5 years. So don't count on rent increases, don't count on appreciation. But right now, we still have two things impacting rents. First, work remotely, homeschooling. The last 2 years changed more than in the last 50, with that being more of an option. So you have people that used to be in higher cost of living areas who can rent in your area and pay significantly more. For the next still year or so, we're starting to see, for the last year, they couldn't buy. Most people were concerned with work from home or work remotely going away and they had to go back to the office, so they would rent until their company figured out what they're doing. We're seeing an equilibrium now where companies are saying, okay, the people at home can stay at home, even states and counties. Companies like Tesla are saying, come back to the office or you're fired. So that's balanced out to where some of those might become buyers pushing prices up more. Because our biggest competition as an investor isn't other investors, it isn't hedge funds, it's home buyers. And so there's going to be more of those, which could push prices higher. But rents are continuing to go up. And the second thing that's impacting that is record wage inflation. And it's not the 5 to 7% that's being put out by the media saying people at companies are getting this. It's because we're seeing the great resignation. Consistently, every month for the last over a year, over 4 million people quit their jobs, but unemployment is under 4%. So they're not quitting and going on unemployment. They're quitting and going to other companies, which is getting them huge pay increases, 10, 20% in some cases, because companies are willing to pay more to take good staff from competitors. So those wage increases could cause rents to go up still, but it's always going to be rents lag behind prices. Or the hedge funds would say, we're going to shift $500 billion to this asset class that has such a great return. So it's going to always lag. So investing in real estate is a long game. We're not always buying for that 40% return tomorrow, right? You might have a 40% IRR in 5 years, but you're not going to often find deals that do that. So that's the struggle now. Finding the deal that gets the return you want so you can get the benefit of the next 5 years. Because remember, and this is how I wrap up some videos, you are going to be alive in 5 years. Start investing like it.
I agree with that. Jay Smith, I just saw your question. How do you feel about all the negative talk from other channels about you? I don't mind. I really don't. I don't care. I mean, so here's the thing. Those people that are talking negatively about us and our views aren't in the game. They're not investors. They weren't investors in 07, 08, and 9. They weren't sellers in the process. They weren't buyers in the process. It's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I guess we'll see where the chips lie in a year or 2 years. I can tell you in a year or two, I will be significantly wealthier in the next 2 years than I am right now. That's why I look forward to it. The only downside to that is that there are people that are going to have to lose.
Here's why their opinions mean literally nothing to me. Fear gets views. Giving people an excuse to not take action gets views. Saying, here's the reason why you should wait to buy. All of those reasons to say, so they get more views. So the channel seems bigger. If I cared about a crash, I would say, here's my data that says why there's not a crash coming. They would say, here's their data why there is a crash coming. And we would have this argument or debate. But I don't care if a crash is coming. We've done the math several times. If we saw a 25% real estate crash in the next 6 months, it still makes more sense to buy the property today, to have the cash flow, to have the seasoning of the property, to have all of the things that happen, and then have the price crash, because it impacts prices, not rents. So it's not even worth arguing when we say prices aren't coming down. Here's all of the reasons why. And in my last 5 minutes, I gave a couple reasons why prices are probably still continuing to go up. But even if they do go down, it doesn't matter. So their problem is that we're not giving people an excuse to sit on the sidelines and wait for some event. We're saying, based on anything that happens, if rates go up, if prices go up, if rates go down or prices go down, if inventory goes up or down, here are the strategies we would use. We're not saying, because there's no crash coming, this is the one path that will get you there. I'm saying, it doesn't matter if there's a crash. It doesn't matter if rates go up or down, if prices go up or down. Those are all one part of the calculation. And so the people who, and like, let's just name it real estate mindset. He is trying to become an investor. He is talking to first-time home buyers, and he is saying, hey, here's some risks you might not want to take. But he's not saying anything that says, as an investor, here's a good reason for you to wait to buy. And I watch his content. I haven't seen anything that says that. So in the beginning, he was actually saying, right, I'm not saying wait. I'm not saying don't take action. He says if these things happen, it might be a better market to buy in the future. I have a problem with any content that is saying there is this coming, so don't buy, because we've had a decade of that. Imagine if we didn't buy in the last 2 years. My net worth, my cash flow would be 50% what it is if I didn't buy in just the last 2 years, let alone the last 10. So the only thing that bothers me when there's negative comments from other content creators is somebody that watches their content who then won't watch ours is damaged. Like the comment where the guy goes, I'm so glad my girlfriend didn't talk me into buying last year, because look at the position I'd be in now. You mean 30% appreciation, a ton of cash flow, not paying rent, and all that horrible crap that would come along with that? Yeah.
True story.
That's what I care for.
I got to run, so we got to make sure that we roll this dice for folks right here and right now. So we're going to do a roll. 11, Dion. Super chat number 11 wins. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top, and we're going to go down. We're going to just kind of count the super chats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ernest Petrilli. Ernest Petrilli, you need to send me an email, lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Send it on over. It appears though Dion's trying to take off in his time machine. Ernest.
Oh, you don't recognize?
I don't know what that is.
Your nerd is no good here.
Super geek. Dear God.
Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah.
No.
Is that hell? What does that do?
It takes you to a bad place, so that's why I play with it. And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are. So Ernest Petrilli, send me an email, lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Send me the size that you want. And again, just goofing. If you want me to sign, I'm happy to do it just as a goof. But if you guys have any questions, please put them in the video afterwards. This will be posted shortly. Dion, where can everybody find you, my friend?
Drinking. Here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I'll do my live stream Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific, where I try to answer all the questions too.
It is, and it is a great time. I often try to make it, or always at least listening. Again, if you guys have questions, put them in the normal video once it posts, because the super chats chat disappears. So please feel free to put those in there, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions throughout the next couple of days. I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. And again, want to make sure to not forget to mention today is September 11th. It was a devastating time for our country. And at the same time, too, something that really brought our country back together. More often than not, I wish for those days, because sadly, I think as a country, we are far worse positioned now than we were then. So I hope you guys all remember that. Remember what it was like September 12th. And I think the world will be a much better place. So I appreciate all you guys. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend or week, what's remaining of your weekend. And we will be doing Dion's live stream is amazing. It's on 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. And then we'll be doing 3 Amigos. I believe that will come out Wednesday or Thursday of this week. Dion, thank you again for attending, my friend. Everyone have a fantastic week.
Ciao.
Hold on.
Now pull a millennial